and emergency vehicles are dispatched, BC fire trucks almost always get there before ambulances do. But in many cases, when the injury is considered non-critical, firefighters don't even get the call. And that means patients are facing longer and longer waits for ambulances. Now, Jackie Strom in North Vancouver is one of those patients. Her daughter, Deb Gardner, explains what happened.
My mother, who was 88 years old, fell down our front stairs. There's 12 of them. Our neighbors heard the fall, and they phoned 911. The BC Ambulance Service was supposed to be called. The dispatcher said they would be on their way. And it was 15 minutes later. They still weren't there. The neighbors called them again. The 911 dispatcher asked if my mother was conscious and if she was breathing. She answered yes. They said, well, it was a crazy night. It was really, really busy, and that they would get there as soon as they could. And they were probably between 25-30 minutes in total before they arrived on the scene. They did not call the fire department, and my question was, why wasn't the fire department called to discover, what my mom's injuries were, to reassure all of us that she would be okay? She lay there on cold cement for, like I said, 25-30 minutes, and there was nobody to help us or tell us anything.
That is Deb Gardner, Jackie Strom's daughter. And joining us now with more on this story is Michael Hurley. He's the president of the BC Professional Firefighters Association. Good morning to you, Michael.
Good morning.
So what kinds of 911 calls are firefighters not responding to?
Well, anything that's considered non-priority now, fire will only get called if there's confirmation that an ambulance can't get there.
Now, how long are people waiting for ambulances, though?
Well, we're seeing more and more now of just like you heard in the intro, people waiting for 30 minutes up to 2 hours for an ambulance service, for the ambulance to arrive, based on those types of calls, just like what you heard, an elderly person falling downstairs, and that's not considered a priority call now.
Now tell me about the protocol of what happens when somebody calls 911. How is it determined whether a firefighter should be dispatched or an ambulance should be dispatched?
Well, the ambulance dispatch gets the call, and based on a priority system that has been developed by them, it's decided based on what that caller tells them if it's a priority call or a non-priority call.
And when do you find out whether an ambulance is going to be available and whether the firefighters are going to have to pick up in place of an ambulance?
Well, that's all down to the how the dispatch system views that. If it's what they view critically necessary, then they will send help. If it's not critically necessary, they now appear to say that the patient can wait.
And right now, what are firefighters not allowed to do when they're responding to a call? I take it that ambulance paramedics do they have better training, better equipment? Can they do more with a patient than a firefighter can do?
Absolutely, they can. But the real situation here, and why these changes, in our view, why these changes were made in September, is to paper over what we view as a critical shortage in ambulances and paramedics on the street. So obviously the less calls you view as a real emergency, then your system can run thinner. And we believe that's the real genesis for these changes. However, we also believe that firefighters your local firefighters in your community are available to fill gaps in the system. But we don't want to take away from the fact that there is a shortage of ambulances on the street.
But how do you make up for a shortage of ambulances on the street by not responding to calls? It seems to me the opposite would be true.
Well, that would seem like the common sense way to look at it, and certainly that's how we look at it, is that, we don't believe that any of our citizens should be laying in the street for a prolonged period of time.
Now, have you reached out to the province on this?
We have had a few meetings with the province. The province are listening to what their medical experts are telling them, and medical experts are saying if it's not critical to be there, then we don't need to be there, in such a short period of time. I should say, for the most emergent of calls, the Canadian standard that's set is under 9 minutes. For the most emergent of calls, we don't believe that any patient should wait longer than 15 minutes when they call 911. Our belief is that when you call 911, you believe your family has an emergency, and that emergency should get a response.
Michael, what would you like to see actually change here then?
Well, first of all, what needs to change is that there needs to be more paramedics and ambulances on the street. Firefighters need to be allowed to train to a higher level and a more effective level to deal with patients when ambulances can't arrive. Right now, we're only allowed to train and practice to a certain level.
And so you'd like to see the training be more like the training paramedics receive?
Well, and maybe not that high, but there certainly are levels in between that could fill the gaps until an ambulance arrives on the scene.
Any chance of those changes actually coming into effect?
Well, they're promising a pilot project in Delta, which would be a 3-year project. And that's all great for Delta, but we believe these changes need to happen right away across the province to allow these gaps to be filled that are certainly within the system. And if anyone says there are no gaps in the system, then they're not out in the field seeing what's going on right now.
Michael Hurley, appreciate your time this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You take care. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
And emergency.